you. Good morning, coffee friends. I know this is a panel about technology and innovation. And for technology and innovation to work in a producing country, we need a minimum of infrastructure for it to be effectively used. And this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the work of the Global Coffee Platform to implement or develop the infrastructure that exists, or implement, if it doesn't exist, in producing countries, so that the projects that many of you developed in these countries can be more efficient, more effective, and bring more results. The Global Coffee Platform is actually today active in 9 countries in alphabetical order: Brazil, Colombia, Honduras, Indonesia, Kenya, Peru, Tanzania, Uganda, and Vietnam. But this work can be extended to other countries. And for this reason, we have a memorandum of understanding with the International Coffee Organization. So what I'm going to be telling you about here is not restricted and can be used in any country. And what the platform believes is that we have to have a local action for global results if we want to increase the viability of sustainable coffee with added value for growers. And this, of course, in a time of low prices we're living right now, we have to think of the economic viability of coffee farming together. And I'm going to use a few stories to carry you through this infrastructure building. And my first story is the large coffee grower in country X that has an average productivity of 30 bags per hectare, and it's fully sustainable. However, he or she is surrounded by many small growers whose average productivity is 5 bags per hectare. And they're not sustainable at all, especially economically. Why does that happen? Because their country lacks a fully developed enabling environment. Maybe some of the environment is there, sometimes none of the environment is there. Do you know that in some coffee-producing countries, the grower only gets 25% of the FOB export price, 50%. And the average for the world is about 65%. Whereas countries that have this enabling environment, in these countries, the producer gets 85 to 90%. What is this enabling environment? It's extension services that train the growers, farmer organization that brings them together to defend their own interests, financing for inputs, for equipment, for harvesting, smart legislation that does not have taxes that take the money from the farmer to be invested elsewhere, efficient markets for fertilizers, for inputs, and an efficient supply chain and logistics. This is one of the things that the Global Coffee Platform brings about in the countries where it operates. In some countries, it's trying to perfect it. In other countries, it has to start from scratch. But it's this training, this organization, this logistics has to be brought about. And the question you might think at the beginning, this is the government jobs and we don't care. It's not as easy as that. And I think we believe at the platform that there is a role for the private sector to play. And how does it play it? With the creation of national sustainability platforms. What's a national sustainability platform? Who participates? Who integrates the platforms? Starting with growers' representatives and their associations, representatives of the trade, representatives of industry, retail, and very, very important, government and civil society, because there can be the main players. But the incentives have to be there for them to operate. So when you bring this all together, you create a national sustainability platform. And you may say, well, many countries already have platforms. But sometimes the platforms are too busy with other things, like financing growers or this or that, and there is no time to look at sustainability itself. That's why we add one more item here. And I know, and I say there is this intangible thing there, because these things are sometimes very difficult to justify that they have to be paid for, because there are no clear KPIs, results, so we have to make them do with collaboration from government, developing ownership and investment too. And this brings me to my second story. Many of you have projects in producing countries, and these projects can really profit from what you're talking about. Let's think of the $5 million project that is supposed to help 3,000 growers in country Y. It lasts 2 years, and the productivity, which used to be 5, now is 22. And they were not sustainable before, but they are sustainable now. It so happens that after the KPIs, the key performance indicators, are measured at the end of year 2, and that time goes by, you go there in year 4. And the productivity that had gone up to 22 bags per hectare has gone back to 7. And they're no longer sustainable. What happened? The results could not be incorporated, not even by those farmers themselves, let alone the rest of the country, because the country did not develop a sustainability lingo. There was not a language. Sustainability was not incorporated. It didn't have ownership by the extension services that exist, by the agronomist, by state itself. That's why the Global Coffee Platform has been creating in these countries what's called National Sustainability Curricula that bring together extensionists, agronomists, not only from government, but from the trade, from roasting companies, and includes the certification schemes like Rainforest Alliance for Seafair Trade, and together they create a national sustainability curricula that's local to the country. It has ownership, also because you cannot expect a public extension service to use a foreign standard. This has to be a local lingo that will be the basis for the grower to go into certification afterwards. But this national sustainability curricula is something that the country can use because it was created within the country. And this also allows you to measure sustainability. On the one hand, it allows you to use the local resources that are there. You have the extension services, the agronomists start to talk a sustainability language that they did not talk before. So you start using local resources, like the extension service in coffee in Brazil spends $70 million per year. We can use that money if we have the proper lingo, the sustainability curricula. But the sustainability curricula also allows us to measure sustainability. Brazil and Vietnam are using a cell phone app to do that. But you can do it by other means. And this allows one to identify sustainability gaps. And if you identify the gaps, you know where you have to invest to have continuous improvement and eventually to create sustainable regions. Because this whole idea of sustainability is changing from a world of certification to something that we're maybe thinking not of the grower himself or herself anymore, but of the region. And once you measure, you identify sustainability gaps, you can have pre-competitive, multi-stakeholder member initiatives that attack those gaps. And this is the case, for example, of this member initiative on responsible use of agrochemicals in Brazil. You see in this picture from right to left, 3 important roasters, Nestle, JDE, and Keurig. You see traders, Olam and Econ. And very important, Syngenta is there, an agrochemical company. We have to bring them along to be responsible as well. And the Federation of Brazilian Coffee Exporters. They're all working together in a member initiative that is to address sustainability gaps collectively, and everybody is sharing the bill. And this forces members, participants, to recognize members' co-responsibility. Everybody is responsible from seed to cup. And this is not a one-shot deal. This will bring long-term results because it's incorporated by the National Sustainability Platform and uses the National Coffee Sustainability Curricula. And also, the money for this is coming very often not only from the participating companies, but also from donors in the country itself and abroad. And this all together brings me to my third story. Sometimes we are doing in our producing countries projects that are not really the most important high-hanging fruit, because this is what the money coming from abroad is available for. Sometimes there are funds to do X, but what the country mostly needs is Y. And what this system we're talking about allows you is to define the sustainability gaps locally. And if you do that locally, you can then go after the donors in the country or outside the country. And then you really focus on main priorities for each and every country, for each and every region. Well, you might be asking, this looks all very nice, and who pays the bill? Well, the bill of the platform is basically the backbone. The structure that makes it work is paid by member contributions. So we're always looking up to grow membership and to engage more members, because that's the way we can expand our activities. Of course, the backbone is paid by members. The membership initiatives are paid by the ones who participate, and we count a lot on donor money for the projects. And this donor money can come from abroad or can come from the countries themselves. Well, have explained all this to you that seems very theoretical. We're going to move now into what I call the more practical part. And to close this, I want to say to you how hard it is to finance what is intangible. And that's the basics of it. Sometimes there is a lot of money for the tangible part that's easy to measure. But the tangible part often does not work if you do not have the infrastructure that is the intangible. And to show to you how this is working, I'm going to have 2 testimonials, 1 minute only, one from Dr. Emmanuel, which is the chair of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority and the Coffee Platform, and Dr. Kimemia, who is the chair of the Kenya Coffee Platform. In fact, Dr. Emmanuel is here if you want to stand, Emmanuel. But for the sake of time, we're going to use the testimony instead of having him to speak. Can I please have the Uganda testimony, Dr. Emmanuel?
We have come up with the costings of investing in the 4 categories of coffee production, from traditional system to an improved system to a commercial system, but also a recommended system. This will consider all the types of production systems in Uganda, in both Arabica and Robusta, in all parts of the country. These results are very useful to the public and private sector because it is helping to guide a focused investment. We have come up with templates which have all the costings for different production systems, and is helping more investors to come in coffee. As a government, we feel this is a way of working with private sector, but having in mind a commercial and business-oriented approach. And these templates are available both in Uganda, any Ugandan who wants to upload them, everybody who wants to do coffee, we just show them the link and they can easily come up with such a kind of investments.
The Kenya Coffee Platform that has been recently formed aims at assisting our farmers to grow their coffee. And one area that we are focusing on was to have an agreed training curriculum that we are calling the National Coffee Sustainability Curriculum to ensure that the farmers get the same message. Secondly, because agriculture is devolved, we are focusing on training of trainers at the county level to ensure that these trainers will go out and train the farmers on GAP. Also, we are training the wet mill managers to ensure that whatever the farmers produce, the good coffee, then they can be processed well. And finally, the dialogue between all the stakeholders gives confidence, gives a peace, gives a hope for the farmers. And I think this is the most important ingredient in as far as coffee sustainability is concerned, that harmony in the coffee production.
We're now moving from two examples in Africa, very brief, to another example. We're now moving to Southeast Asia. And I'm going to show a 1-minute testimonial from Vietnam. And after that, we're going to devote the second slot to a presentation of how the platform works with the curriculum and etc. in Vietnam. Can I have the third video?
One of the very, I think, important achievement of TCB Vietnam is the development of the National Sustainable Coffee Curriculum. And then when we develop it, we try to apply it, we need to measure the result. And with the pilot with 8,000 growers, in the next step, we will have a lot for the government to prioritize the investment resources, like we have another program working with the World Bank for the loan to support our farmer to apply sustainable practice. And it's also the opportunity that we can introduce our farmer to the buyer to see how sustainable our coffee is. And very importantly, in the next step, we will upscale, such kind of measurement for all the 5 provinces in the coffee area of Vietnam. And another important step is that we work together with the government to develop what we call the law of crop production. And very important article there is the application of geographical indication for the crop in Vietnam.
I now would like to call Veronica to present to you the work of SCOPI, which is the Sustainable Global Platform, the Global Coffee Platform in Vietnam. I'm sorry, in Indonesia. I'm getting mixed up. There you go.
Thank you, Carlos. Good afternoon, America. Because in Indonesia, it's about 11 hours ahead from here. So, first, I want to ask, how many of you have ever been to Indonesia? Wow, that's a lot. Wow, I'm surprised. But here we are. But let's go for the journey. Indonesia is very large and diverse. I don't know which part of you that visit our provinces, our location of coffee in Indonesia. But I don't know if maybe you also know that Indonesia have about 17,500 islands. We have also 1,300 races and tribes. And even we have 2,500 languages. So you can imagine, when we have to enter the location, that's why we have to understand the culture, the local languages, to understand more. I've been to about 14 provinces out of 15 provinces of the major coffee production in Indonesia. I know of you, maybe Sumatra, right? But have you ever been to Aceh, to Jambi, to Papua as well? So that is quite spread of the location. The challenges, the location is quite distant, the languages and infrastructure, and even the phone signal. So this is sometimes we have to stop our work as a city people when I have to go to the location. We are very lucky to have support from stakeholders such as the Global Coffee Platform, Rainforest Alliance, Ford Foundation, Ricolto, New Zealand Embassy, and a lot more others. But of course, big support from our members and the governments of Indonesia. After 325 years of cultivating coffee, the stakeholders gathered and launched this national curriculum. And easy way, we call it NSC. This is like the Bible for the master trainers to train the farmers. Same language from Aceh to Papua, so that they have no difficulties to translate each by each onto their language. But of course, we still need a translator from the local translator to translate, because sometimes they don't understand about what it is, because right now we only made this book in Indonesian language as a national language. And sorry, maybe if you don't speak Indonesia, maybe you don't really understand what is inside it. This national curriculum, it's also, the launch is only the first step. But the next big step that we have to do is actually the rolling out for this to the farmers, to monitor them and to make sure the impact for this. Now, this is the national curriculum that actually we're rolling out to the master trainers. And this is actually the master trainer national meeting that we host every year. There are 190 from all over 15 provinces with different background, different languages. But here, they speak about national curriculum, the language that everyone knows about this. The next part is they have to talk about what is the plan, what is the program, what is the follow-up after they have to return to the region. Because this is that we really want to see about the farmers getting the rollout from them. This is more challenge that we also have to build the development for monitoring evaluation system Besides of the serious program, serious talk in the classes, we also provide them on the outdoor activities, like funny things like dancing, like they can show off about what they have from the region with different style of dancing or something like that. So not only this, but we also give them a chance. We give them reward, give them award for the people, the master trainers that actually achieve what they did in the field, that we can value them. So we have some kind of category, like the best performance of MT, the best or the most farmers trained, and the best of administration, reporting, and etc. Last 2 months ago, we have the pilot monitoring project in 2 locations. One in Robusta area, and the other one is in Arabica. And the result is the farmers really happy to get intensively trained by the master trainers. And this is a positive thing to make them to practice it, the result from the training, to practice into their field. We don't want to lose them. We need them. We need the master trainers to intensively rolling out the training to the farmers. We don't want them to stop to do this noble work. As you may know, we have Arabica and Robusta traded globally and produced most in the world. But aside from that, Indonesia is actually have coffee grow in peatlands, type of Liberica and Excelsa. Yeah, this is a bit something different. Right now, we don't really have the national curriculum for this location, for Liberica and Excelsa. So maybe on the next part, we will develop on this national curriculum as well. Peatlands, and right now we have a lot of activities that actually we also bring up to plant the coffee in the peatlands. This is also help on the climate mitigation. This is me in the middle of the man, behind the coffee trees that maybe you also enjoy the coffee right now or in your home. After we have a lot of work hard on the training, on the sunburn, on arguing and everything, like we can celebrate right now with the peace. Yeah, so that's one experience that really I cannot forgettable for this. I used to work among men, but I really love work in the middle of these women farmers, especially with their age. They have really high energy and inspirational. Gender and also age. The youth is also become one of challenges in Indonesia because a lot of farmers is quite senior. I don't want to say old. Yeah. So this is also another challenge for us, but we try, we keep developing to make more real activities to make the gender and youth happen in Indonesia program as well. We don't want to have the kids of the farmers, they don't really want to take care of the coffee trees, the coffee land from their family anymore. Most of the farmers, they don't know what to do with the farm. So sometimes we have to teach them how to take care of your land, how to take care of the farms. We teach them how to make para-para. We call it para-para, but like the drying system for their coffee. But this is conventional. We try to make this efficient and effective, so they don't really make a reason, I cannot do this and cannot do that because I have to buy this, I have to buy that, provide this and provide that. So sometimes we use what they have in their farm, like the wood, the bamboo. So we teach them how to make their things what you have in your farm, use it. And a lot of farmers also don't know how and why they have to pick red cherries. So we teach them about just pick the red cherries. A lot of reason why they have to picking all the cherries from the trees they have. First, sometimes they said, I don't have people to do that, to picking one by one, looking for the red. And then that is easier way, fast, very fast to do that, rather than have to pick one by one on the red cherry, and then so on. And sometimes the price is not worth it. And we have to also translate about the green grading to the farmers, what it is, because sometimes they don't understand about what is green grading? What is the damaged bean? They don't really understand. So we have to translate them about this kind of beans is a reject, so you can separate them. Yeah, bulletproof. I've been there. So sometimes the coffee you drink, the coffee you're enjoying, is not easy to get. I have to facing one time that I have to use bulletproof vests and helmets, and also using the bulletproof cars, to go to the location. And this is more challenge for us. The government roles is very important for us to rolling out this. So through MOU, we can have agreement with the governments to do planning on the program, what next, what is to achieve, the target, and so on. So this, we have to understand each other as well, to do also collaboration. There is a saying, you cannot sweep using one stick. But when you put together, it will become a broom. So this is, stakeholders realize that you cannot work by yourself. So you have to work together, collaboration, to make the bigger input, bigger impact, and bigger receiver. Who is that? Our member, our supporter, the governments, and maybe next will be you. To ensure that we have the same page, we have the theory of change, so we know which part that we have to do, which part we have to deliver, what is the target, when is we have to achieve, and so on. It's not easy to have only one theory of change because we have to gather with all the stakeholders that maybe they have different interests. And I have a lot of experience when I go to the field, meet the farmers, give them training. They ask me, is there any is there any market for my coffee? But when I go to meet the roaster, meet the traders, they will also ask me and say, like, I'm really hard to get supply for coffee. So I'm thinking about there's a gap for that. So we develop one event. We call it Pasar Coffee or Coffee Market. We call it Pasar Kopi by Skopi. So we have every years to do this Pasar Coffee. And the buyers really, really likes this idea. Really likes the idea because they can meet the farmers directly. They know a new variety. They know about the story behind the coffee that they want to buy. So this is really, really excitement event in Indonesia as well. We did it 2 times last year in Jakarta Coffee Week and also in the Trade Expo Indonesia. So I think this is buyer and seller meet and the coffee sold. Thank you.